What's going on, guys? This is Social Science Simplified. The midterms are now only 2 days away, and that means it is time for my final Senate prediction of the election cycle. I believe I uploaded one or two before. I believe it was only one, and I believe that was in June of 2021, and a lot has changed. So, we're going to get right into the video today. The Republicans have 29 seats that are not up for election this year. The Democrats have 36. So it looks like the Democrats are starting off with an advantage, but is that really an advantage? Because then you factor in safe seats and all of that. So let's get right into the prediction. And I am actually changing my margins. I've read a lot of your comments, and it makes more sense if I go along with margins that are similar to the ones other political scientists and political YouTubers use. Less than 1% is a tilt margin. 1% to 4.9% is a lean margin. 5.0% to 14.9% is a likely margin. And 15% or greater 15.0% or greater is a safe margin. So starting off with the Democratic seats, the safe Democratic seats. California, Alex Padilla was appointed in 2021 after Kamala Harris resigned to become vice president. There's actually a quote-unquote special election in California to fill Harris's seat for the remainder of the term in between November 8th and January 3rd. That's a fun fact that a lot of you might not know. I didn't know it personally until a couple weeks ago. I thought it was a fun fact for those of you who, like me, are political junkies out there. So California, Alex Padilla is going to be reelected. Safe margin of victory. Same with Hawaii, safe. Oregon, safe. Illinois, Tammy Duckworth is going to be reelected. Safe margin of victory. Maryland, safe. Vermont, safe. And looking around here. That's it for the safe Democrat states. Now moving on to the safe Republican states. North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, both elections in Oklahoma. The special election to fill Jim Inhofe's seat for the rest of his term until 2026 is a safe Republican seat, as well as Jim Lankford's seat is safe Republican as well. Louisiana is a safe Republican seat, even if it goes to a runoff. If John Kennedy doesn't get the needed 50% to avoid a runoff, it will still be a safe Republican seat. Arkansas, safe Republican. Kentucky, Indiana, South Carolina, Alabama. Nothing of note yet as far as anything out of the ordinary here. Idaho is safe. Missouri is safe. Alaska is safe, and here's why. Either Lisa Murkowski or Kelly Tshibaka is going to be elected to the Senate. Patricia Chesbrough is not going to win. You even see the Democratic representative from Alaska, Mary Peltola, endorsed Lisa Murkowski. And it looks like Lisa Murkowski is going to win, and that is my official prediction for Alaska. I believe that Lisa Murkowski will win re-election, especially due to the ranked choice voting system. But either way, whether Kelly Tshibaka wins or Lisa Murkowski wins, a Republican is going to win in the state of Alaska, which is why I am giving it the rating of safe Republican. And now moving on to the likely states. These are the ones that could get competitive, but some of them, they're safe. The margin of victory is just going to be less than 15%. So Connecticut is the perfect example of that. Richard Blumenthal is going to be reelected from Connecticut. I think he'll just win by somewhere around 13 to 14 points. He won't win by 15. Colorado, that is a competitive race, but I believe Michael Bennet is going to defeat Joe O'Dea pretty handily, probably by around somewhere between 7 to 12 points, which I know is a pretty large margin to have as a margin of error, 5-point range there, but I believe Michael Bennet will win by 7 to 12 points. He'll defeat Joe O'Dea, and he'll be reelected. Patty Murray in Washington, I believe she'll win re-election by around 10 to 12 points. Once again, it's competitive on paper, but in reality, Patty Murray is going to win. She just won't win by 15 points. And now moving on to the likely Republican states. To start off, one I want to explain here is Florida. Marco Rubio is a strong candidate in the state of Florida. He's done very well there. As far as running elections goes, he knows how to win statewide. He knows how to run a campaign. He knows how to get reelected in the state of Florida, and I believe he'll win by somewhere around 7 points. He'll defeat Val Demings, probably somewhere in the range of 53-46, something like that. And then the other likely Republican states, Iowa. Chuck Grassley is going to win re-election. I honestly think there is no question about it. He has been a senator from Iowa for decades. He is the longest serving Republican in the Senate, and if the Republicans retake the majority, he will be the Senate President pro temp, and he's held that role before. He's going to win re-election, but I believe he'll win re-election by somewhere around 12 to 14 points. He's not going to win by 15, at least the polling suggests, so I believe he'll win by around 12 to 14, and the Democrats have a strong candidate in Mike Franken. And the last likely Republican state is Utah. I believe that Senator Mike Lee will win re-election in the state of Utah. I don't really think there's that much of a chance that Evan McMullin beats him. Obviously, if Evan McMullin were to win, I wouldn't necessarily be overly shocked because some polls have shown McMullin in the lead and have shown it to be competitive, but I believe that Mike Lee will win re-election by somewhere around 8 to 12 points, and I believe it's going to be closer to 12 points. And now moving on to New York is a safe Democratic state. I don't know how I missed that, but Chuck Schumer is going to win re-election. New York is a safe Democratic state. And now moving on to the lean states. For the Democratic Party, New Hampshire is a lean state. Once again, Maggie Hassan, strong candidate, defeated Kelly Ayotte in 2016 by a little over 1,000 votes in a very narrow margin of victory. I believe that she will beat Don Bolduc, and polling has shown the race becoming more competitive, but I believe she's going to win by around 3 or 4 points, and I don't really see her losing on election night. I would be pretty shocked if Maggie Hassan lost in New Hampshire on Tuesday. I believe she'll win by around 3 to 4 points. And now moving on to the other lean Democratic state, and that is Arizona. Once again, Mark Kelly, you have the perfect example of the Democrats have a strong candidate in Mark Kelly who is willing to break with his party and show some independence from his party. And then the Republicans have a weaker candidate, and by weaker candidate, I mean Blake Masters has never held public office before, so running a statewide campaign is a challenge for anyone, let alone someone who has never held public office before. So I believe that Mark Kelly will win by around 2 points. I believe it's going to be close, like it was in 2020, but I believe Mark Kelly is going to win, and I believe he'll win by around 2 points. And now moving on to the lean Republican states, and there are going to be 4 of these, and I'm going to mark them first and then explain them. Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. Wisconsin, once again, Mandela Barnes, the Democratic Lieutenant Governor and challenger to incumbent Republican Senator Ron Johnson, was polling ahead, but then his lead just evaporated as the Republicans ran more attack ads and started ramping up their own campaign. And I believe that Senator Ron Johnson will win re-election by around, I'd say by around 3 or 4 points, which is a pretty large margin of victory in the state of Wisconsin when you consider recent election results there. Trump won it by less than a point in 2016. Biden won it by, I believe, less than a point in 2020. And regardless of what Biden's percentage margin of victory was in 2020, I don't remember it off the top of my head, Biden won Wisconsin by around 20,000 votes in 2020. So a very competitive state. So Ron Johnson winning by around 3 or 4 points, which I believe he will, is pretty significant there as far as his ability to run a campaign. And I believe he will win by around 3 or 4 points in Wisconsin. And then moving on to Ohio. Once again, Tim Ryan is a very strong Democratic candidate, a moderate, which plays to what Ohio voters are looking for, someone who's able to exercise independence from their own political party. If you look at certain elected officials in Ohio's past, you have Sherrod Brown, who's a moderate Democrat, who has been willing to break with his own party. Representative Tim Ryan, who is the Senate candidate, who I just talked about, strong candidate. John Kasich, the former governor, endorsed Biden in 2020. Once again, candidates and elected officials who are willing to show independence and break with their own party. And I believe J.D. Vance, the Republican, once again, this is an open seat, currently held by Rob Portman, who is retiring. J.D. Vance has never held public office. So once again, running a statewide campaign is always a challenge. But if you've never held public office before, it's even more of a challenge, which is why I believe that even though Trump won Ohio by 8 points in 2020, I believe that J.D. Vance is only going to defeat Tim Ryan by around 3 to 4 points. And now moving on to the next state, because I want to talk about Pennsylvania last, I'm going to talk about North Carolina now. And North Carolina has always been in favor of the Republicans as far as the 538 forecast has shown, as far as the polls have shown. It's always been leaning towards the Republicans, and I believe that Ted Budd is going to defeat Sherry Beasley by around 3 to 4 points. I could see it getting more competitive. I could see it being 2 points. But regardless, I believe that Ted Budd is going to win the Senate seat in North Carolina. But once again, this is an interesting race to watch, and if you're a political junkie, I'd encourage you to watch it, because this is a race where both candidates are very strong. Very strong candidates, both have held office before, and it's going to be an interesting race to see how it plays out. And then finally, for the lean states, moving on to Pennsylvania. And now, Pennsylvania, John Fetterman was polling ahead the whole summer. He was leading by 8 points. He's a strong Democratic candidate, and then Dr. Oz started to moderate his views a bit, and the Republicans, after the nasty primary election in which Dr. Oz defeated Dave McCormick by around 1,000 votes, the Republicans started to come home to Dr. Oz, and Dr. Oz has surged in the polls in recent weeks. And while Fetterman is still leading, I think back to 2016 when Katie McGinty was leading by 2 points over Senator Pat Toomey in the polls, and she still lost to him. So accounting for a potential polling error, I believe that Dr. Oz will win the Senate seat in Pennsylvania by around 1 to 1.5 points. It's a competitive race, and if John Fetterman wins, I would not be surprised at all. But right now, I believe that the Senate race in Pennsylvania will end up going in favor of Dr. Oz, simply because in this scenario, I'm accounting for a polling error and the fact that we're still 2 days out from the election and Dr. Oz has surged in the polls in recent weeks. And now moving on to the tilt states. And there's one for the Republicans here, and that is Nevada. Nevada, once again, competitive race. Both candidates, incumbent senator, who's a Democrat, Catherine Cortez Masto, incumbent senator. She's won statewide. Former state attorney general, knows how to win statewide. And the Republican challenger, former state attorney general Adam Laxalt, and son of former New Mexico Senator Pete Domenici, grandson of former Nevada Senator Paul Laxalt. Once again, both strong candidates. Both candidates know how to win statewide. However, the polling has shown that Laxalt is in the lead, and I believe he'll win by around 0.5 point. Once again, if Catherine Cortez Masto wins, I would not be surprised, but it's all going to depend on turnout, and I believe that with the national environment, that Adam Laxalt will win by around 0.5 point. And finally, moving on to the last state, Georgia, and that is a lean state for the Democratic Party, and here's why. I believe that Herschel Walker will come out ahead in the first round, but looking at the polls right now, both candidates are polling at around 47%. And in Georgia, in order to avoid a runoff, a candidate needs to cross the 50% threshold in order to avoid a runoff. And I don't believe either candidate will do that in the first round, but I believe that in the runoff, the Democrats will get voter turnout and will develop a good strategy for getting voters to turn out and go vote, and I believe that incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock will defeat Republican challenger Herschel Walker. In addition, Herschel Walker has been plagued by scandals, and Raphael Warnock is also an incumbent senator, and I believe that Raphael Warnock will win by around 1 point to 1.5 points in the December runoff. So, in conclusion, my final Senate prediction has the Republicans retaking control of the Senate with a 51 to 49 split in the Senate, and I have the Republicans flipping the state of Nevada and all other states staying the same. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Please go vote Tuesday and check back in for more election predictions and analysis. Thank you.